Honestly feels like the next few weeks could completely change the direction of this franchise. And the crazy part is that today we've got not one, but two huge Canucks stories that say a lot about where this team is heading behind the scenes and on the ice. Because one of these stories could shape the future of the front office for years, and the other could end up involving one of the most important names on this roster right now. And as Canucks fans, we've seen how fast things can shift with this organization. One minute everybody feels optimistic. The next minute you're sitting there wondering what the plan even is anymore. But what's coming out now honestly gives us a pretty interesting look at what this team may be trying to build moving forward. There's a lot to unpack here, especially because both situations connect directly to the future identity of this franchise. And I gotta be honest, one of these updates surprised me way more than I expected. But before we jump into everything, if you're a real Canucks fan and you actually follow this team every day, do me a quick favor and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Canucks Nation Report is still brand new and we're trying to reach our first 2,000 subscribers. Most people watching still aren't subscribed yet, so let's see if this fan base can help build something strong here from the start. So let's start with the first big story, because the Vancouver Canucks front office situation suddenly feels way more interesting than it did a few days ago. Earlier this week, there was a lot of noise around Evan Gold potentially becoming a major name connected to Vancouver's open general manager position. That caught a lot of people off guard because the organization seemed to be looking outside the current structure for a fresh voice in hockey operations. But now, things may have completely shifted again. According to NHL insider Rick Dhaliwal, the Canucks are reportedly circling back toward Ryan Johnson, and honestly, this move makes a ton of sense when you really look at what's happened inside the organization over the last couple of years. Ryan Johnson has already built up a very strong reputation within the Canucks system as the general manager of the Abbotsford Canucks. And this isn't just about being an internal candidate, because he's already there. Abbotsford has become one of the biggest success stories connected to the franchise recently, especially after their Calder Cup success and the development of younger players inside the system. That matters. Because for years, one of the biggest criticisms of the Vancouver Canucks was the lack of long-term organizational structure. It always felt like the team was chasing quick fixes instead of building stability from within. But now it honestly feels like they may finally be trying to create some continuity between Vancouver and Abbotsford instead of constantly resetting everything every few seasons. And if Ryan Johnson gets this opportunity, it would basically signal that the organization values development, internal growth, and patience more than another flashy outside hire. What also makes this situation interesting is the growing influence of Daniel Sadin and Henrik Sadin behind the scenes. The Sadins have stayed heavily involved with the franchise since retiring, and from everything we keep hearing, their voices inside hockey operations continue to grow stronger. The organization clearly trusts them, and if Vancouver is leaning toward more internally driven leadership, it's hard not to think the Sadins are playing a role in that direction. Honestly, as a fan, I actually like that idea, because nobody understands what this market feels like better than Henrik and Daniel Sadin. They lived through the pressure here. They carried this franchise for years. They understand the culture, the expectations, and what this fan base wants from the team. And bringing in somebody like Ryan Johnson, who already helped build something successful in Abbotsford, feels a lot more stable than forcing a risky outside hire just for the sake of making headlines. At the same time, though, this is still a massive decision. The Canucks are at a point where they cannot afford another front office mistake. This team finally showed signs of improvement recently, and now the pressure is on to keep building properly around the core they already have. And the fact the organization still hasn't officially announced a final hiring decision tells you they're being very careful about this process. Quick side note too, more than 90% of people watching these videos still haven't subscribed yet, which honestly blows my mind considering how passionate Canucks fans are. So if you've been enjoying the coverage here on Canucks Nation Report, help us push toward those first 2,000 subscribers and become part of this community from the beginning. Now shifting into the second story. This one could seriously turn into a huge off-season conversation. There's now growing discussion around Brock Boeser potentially becoming a trade target for the New York Rangers. And look, hearing Brock Boeser involved in trade rumors again never feels normal as a Canucks fan. This guy has been through everything with this organization. He's one of the most emotional stories connected to the team over the years. And when he's playing confidently, he's still one of the best goal scorers on the roster. The report talks about how the Rangers are trying to retool this offseason while still remaining competitive. New York has cap space, draft capital, and flexibility to make aggressive moves, especially after already making major changes earlier. One name connected to that conversation is Vincent Trocheck, who could potentially be moved by the Rangers as they reshape their roster. And if New York starts making bigger changes, they may aggressively target scoring help on the wing. That's where Brock Boeser enters the picture. Boeser finished this season with 48 points, including 22 goals and 26 assists. And while those numbers may not jump off the page compared to his 40-goal season during the 2023 to 2024 campaign, teams around the league still know exactly what he can do offensively. And the report specifically mentions the possibility of a reunion with JT Miller in New York. That's the part that honestly grabs your attention immediately. Because JT, Miller, and Brock Boeser already built chemistry together in Vancouver before, and the Rangers could see Boeser as a perfect fit to add more scoring while remaining competitive right away. Now personally, this is where I start getting conflicted as a fan. On one hand, if the Canucks truly believe they need a full reset, then yes, moving a player like Boeser for younger assets, prospects, or draft capital could make sense long term. He's 29 years old, and by the time Vancouver fully turns things around, management may feel the timeline no longer matches perfectly. But emotionally, it's hard imagining Brock Boeser wearing another jersey. He's one of the few players left that fans have stayed deeply connected to through all the chaos this team has gone through over the years. Injuries, trade rumors, pressure, personal adversity. He's dealt with all of it publicly while still continuing to show up for this team. At the same time, hockey is brutal sometimes. And if the Canucks front office truly commits to rebuilding properly, tough decisions are coming whether fans like it or not. What's also interesting is how the report describes Vancouver right now. It openly says the Canucks are viewed as a rebuilding team after finishing with the worst record in the league and falling to the 3rd overall pick after the NHL draft lottery. That alone shows you how differently outsiders currently view this franchise compared to just a short time ago. The article even mentions how missing out on a player like Gavin McKenna hurts because Vancouver dropped behind 2 other teams in the lottery standings. And honestly, that's another reminder of how painful this season became for fans. But this upcoming offseason now feels absolutely critical. Because whether it's Ryan Johnson potentially taking over a major leadership role or Brock Boeser becoming part of serious trade discussions, the Canucks are clearly entering another defining moment as an organization. Everything now comes down to direction. Are they trying to stay competitive quickly? Are they fully rebuilding? Are they trying to balance both at the same time? That's the part fans are desperately waiting to understand. And honestly, the next few months may finally reveal what this organization truly believes it is. As Canucks fans, we've been patient for a long time. We've watched rebuilds, retools, coaching changes, management changes, and roster shakeups over and over again. But this offseason feels different because the decisions being made now could impact the next 5 to 10 years of this franchise. If Ryan Johnson really becomes the next major voice in hockey operations, that could signal stability and trust in internal development. And if Brock Boeser gets moved, that could officially confirm Vancouver is willing to make emotional decisions in order to reshape the future. Either way, big changes are coming. And honestly, all we can hope for now is that this organization finally gets the direction right. If you made it this far, leave a like on the video and let me know in the comments how you feel about both stories. Do you want Ryan Johnson leading the front office? And would you trade Brock Boeser if the Rangers made a serious offer? And if you're a real Canucks fan who follows this team every single day, subscribe to Canucks Nation Report. The channel is still brand new. We're pushing toward our first 2,000 subscribers, and a huge percentage of people watching still aren't subscribed yet. Let's build a strong Canucks community here from the start and go through this crazy offseason together.